What up, body bags? BDG Reviews here. As you can no doubt see from the screen, we have a guest, the one and only Rob from Georgia. And we're covering something kind of interesting. We are covering the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's on Netflix. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. What were your original thoughts when you first heard that it was happening?
I don't know, man. Obviously, anytime you hear one of your franchises is going to be bringing out something new, you're excited. At the same time, what little you started to hear, I guess, I don't know. I was a little nervous only because I had a lot of high expectations for Leatherface. And when that seemed to fail the way it did, and Texas just seems to be maybe the hardest franchise for whatever reason. I don't understand why it is. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit. I don't understand how it is so hard. And I was nervous. I wasn't sure what we were going to get. Kind of excited, to hear Alvarez. Was it Alvarez?
Yeah,
Alvarez. I think I would have been a little bit more, I don't know, excited if he were directing, but he was writing the story and part of it and pushing it. I don't know. Yeah, I was excited. I just maybe bated breath or something. I don't know, waiting.
Yeah. For me, when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, not again. Because Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of those series, I think it suffers from its own success. The first one is so iconic. It's so great. And, the second one is a completely different direction, but still pretty damn good. It's very hard to live up to that. And it's something I've said before with some of the other ones, like Leatherface, for example. Had that just been the introduction of like a new serial killer, that would have been a fine movie. But you put, the Texas Chainsaw like title there and you put that connection, you're raising the bar higher and higher. And, so when I first heard about it, I was like, let's put it this way. I was expecting something on the level of like Texas Chainsaw 3D. So my expectations were
right
in the gutter.
Pretty low.
Then I saw the trailer. Trailer gave me hope. I mean, it showed that, it was going in a different direction, but still keeping what we love of Texas Chainsaw. I kind of dug that. I liked the idea, like Old Man Leatherface. I really liked that idea, And, then you hear, okay, they're bringing back Sally Hardesty. Cool. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
This movie, it's going to get comparisons to Halloween 2018.
Right.
It's like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like comparing oranges to oranges. They're essentially the same story. But I felt, at least plot-wise, I felt it made more sense in Texas Chainsaw than it did in Halloween. Because, by the end of Texas Chainsaw, Sally Hardesty is like a screaming bloody mess. She is like
a screaming banshee.
Yeah, pretty much. She is like, as close to insane as you can get. So I never really questioned the jump from that to someone who's been like hunting after Leatherface ever since. Whereas in Halloween, I never really got I never got that feeling in Halloween that it should have been you know, so obsessively, she wasn't broken enough at the end of Halloween like Sally Hardesty was at the end of Texas Chainsaw. So yeah, also we got to say going in, it's unfair. This movie is a direct sequel to the original, but it's unfair really to put anything up against the original. It's the original Texas is just its own thing. It's something special in the world of horror. And you have to compare them because it's literally a sequel. But at the same time, it's not a fair comparison. I got a good example. It's like comparing Touch of Evil, directed by what's his name, Orson Welles, against Citizen Kane. They're both directed by Orson Welles. They're both great movies, but one of them is like the greatest movie of all time. The other is just awesome. So, it's not a fair comparison. But that being said, I really enjoyed it. Let's say it this way: this movie has some warts. Every movie has some warts, but this has some that maybe could have been addressed, and maybe give it maybe another couple of months in editing, perhaps. A good example is the part with the bus. They get on the bus, they're driving away, you hear like a chainsaw, and then he stops and gets out of the bus. Doesn't make much sense. Could have been solved really easily with one insert shot of a chainsaw just hitting the tire.
I think that's, I don't know. I think that's the least of the issues. I think the biggest issue for me is the writing.
Oh, well, yeah. Don't get me wrong.
And we say this over and over and over, seemingly of late. You're right. It suffers almost. I think it's how you said it. It suffers, because of its own success. When you think of Friday, Halloween, these things, yeah, Halloween's a classic, and Friday 13th. Well, I mean, it was riding the backs of a few other films, and it made a big splash, and it did really well. But Chainsaw is arguably, in the eyes of many, considered maybe the greatest horror movie ever made, hands down. So it's hard, and maybe it's not even fair that, we would even dare compare, especially a movie that's 48 years later, to the original. But
you have to
maybe more acceptable is my big question, and it's tied in with the writing, and is Tobe Hooper developed, or at least foundationally, the beginnings of a mythology of sorts.
Yeah.
And he expanded upon that mythology in the second movie. Yeah. Now, whatever you may think about that second movie, that is one of my favorite sequels of all time. I freaking love it. Now, maybe it's because I'm a child of the 80s. I don't know, but I understood what Hooper was trying to do. And it's not the first one. It is, almost, I don't know. I don't know how it's a comment on the 80s in the same sort of way that the first one was a comment on the 70s.
Yeah.
But the mythology there. So, when I'm watching Leatherface and I'm like, okay, who are all these strange people?
Yeah.
I'm watching this movie and I'm scratching my head going, okay, if this leaves off the original, I'm sort of confused, because I want to know where is the patriarch, or whether he's the father or the brother, the chef, the old man, as IMDb has him. You've got a broader range of family that was established in the sequel. And I know this is only supposed to be leaping off the first, but it almost seems like this movie, there's like, other than Sally, which I feel like it felt more forced than it ever came close to being natural.
Yeah.
is how I felt. And apart from her, the movie really feels disconnected from the foundation of what Hooper said.
Yeah,
And
I can see that for sure.
And I'm not sure exactly, I mean, why it is. If this is supposed to be a natural sequel and you want to ignore the second one, why can't we just still, expand upon the, where's the family in all this? And then, and I mean, you got these, we're talking spoilers, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
we can't talk about this without spoilers. So if you don't want any spoilers, just, leave now.
Yeah. This movie, and we talked about this before. Another issue I have with this movie. Well, before I even say it, let me just say the visuals in this movie are some of the best I think we've had in a Chainsaw movie.
Definitely.
I mean, outside of Daniel Pearl's incredible cinematography of the first one. I mean, yeah. I don't think you'll ever get another camera shot under the swinging chair again. I mean, that was amazing. No. But the visuals it was a visual feast. The gore meter was freaking through the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, how Leatherface does this at 70, I'm not sure. I wish I had his energy.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I enjoyed in terms of
just one energy. Thing. I got to bring one thing up just while we're still on this subject, and this is something I noticed while I was watching it again today. The color palette matches the first one much closer than any of the other sequels. It has that those golden hues and everything that the original had. That hasn't been replicated in any of the sequels, and I just think that's something that definitely needs to be brought up. I
wonder if part of that is the fact they filmed it in Bulgaria.
It could be. It could very well be. But who knows? I mean, honestly, it looked like Texas to me. I've never been to Texas, but
Well, I think the director's from Texas.
Yeah,
So he would have a natural vibe for it. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah,
but that color scheme, it just works.
It does. It does. I aesthetically, I love how it does look. It was weird because when you go in the bus, it's the light really contrasts almost partially with. It's almost like being, I don't know. It's like being in. Oh, this is so off track, but almost like a Dario movie where the light just suddenly gets crazy. With the
exactly.
I wonder, this movie, one of the things we heard about this movie was its anti-wokeness and the bus scene in particular. And, but I mean, I don't know. I wonder if that's what was really the intent. And I could have sworn I've heard in an interview, I don't know, it seems like I've heard one of the, if not the director, the writers talk about that this was going to take that kind of a stance, but it never really ultimately feels like that. I don't know, like that's really, I guess it's just not executed as well as I thought it should have been if that was the intent, because everything seems so mixed. I mean, you start off, there's an anti-gun message, you got a rebel flag, you've got, anti this, anti that messages flying, and none of those messages ever really seem to settle in a real right way. I mean, it's in terms of.
I almost wonder if that's not what they're going for. Almost like the fact that all these woke people are acting. They're woke because it's the in thing to be.
Yeah.
I don't
know. It's interesting. It's kind of, and then the whole her backstory about, being a victim of the mass school shooting.
Now you see, I wish they'd played more on that.
See, it just feels something... if you're going to do it, it just felt under it. You know what it reminded me of, and it's funny because we're talking about Alvarez here. It reminded me of why I didn't like the drug metaphor in Evil Dead remake.
Yeah.
It just didn't really fit. It never really, I thought it took away more than it did then it added to.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's funny. You think about Eli Roth and what he attempted to do with Green Inferno, and that sort of fell flat. And then you kind of, you were interested to see what they were going to go for here, and it just makes you wonder if we're ever going to get another Ruggero Deodato who just nails it.
Yeah.
That type of message because of the angst they feel, or Hooper in his first movie, or
Oh,
Wes Craven in Last House. I mean, any one of these guys that were just so freaking pissed off at the world around them, it
and
just
you
poured
see,
it poured out on this, in what they were making. But
yeah.
I'm curious, who was your favorite character in this?
Um, um, characters. What are those?
Yeah, I do have
Honestly,
one. I have one.
I liked the girl who was a survivor of the mass shooting,
Okay.
and that was kind of it. And I kind of liked what's his name, the like, was it Richter or something, the
Richter, yes.
redneck type guy. I liked what they did with him a lot,
He's
because
he
when it first started, my thought was like, okay, guy is going to be like the hitchhiker. He's gonna play that role, and I like the fact that they didn't do that. I like the fact that they made him essentially a good guy.
he was a good guy.
I really like that. One thing I think this movie does really well, and it's something that I kind of noticed the other night when I was watching Texas Chainsaw Part 2. I don't think it's right to look at Leatherface as a character. I think you have to look at him almost as like an attack dog. And he is determined by what his handler is telling him. So when we start this movie, his handler is essentially this old woman who's been keeping him in line. And then she's gone. So all of a sudden you have essentially a mad dog
Which
without like anyone telling him where to go, what to do. So he's just lashing out at
Yeah.
everything.
Which is strange because she's like that mama figure to him, but they almost play it off as though she is,
Yeah.
which
I mean,
confused me.
it's one of those things. See, I honestly believe that there's a longer cut of this movie. I believe there are more scenes that aren't in it that would probably explain this. I feel it was probably cut out because they wanted like a X number of minutes. But I there's definitely more to this story,
Oh,
I feel, but either because of time constraints or because of maybe money, I don't know. But
yeah.
I don't feel we've got the whole story. I feel we've got teased of what the story is, you know? And it does make you wonder, like, where are the rest of the family?
It
You know?
does. I mean, yeah. I tell you,
Because
I loved.
let's be honest, watching the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, um, Leatherface wasn't particularly interesting. He's essentially a weapon. Who's interesting is the hitchhiker. Who's interesting is the cook. It's the
Oh
rest of
yeah,
the
Cook is
family.
really.
They're the ones that have the personality and everything. Like I said, he's like Leatherface is an attack dog. What makes him interesting is who's holding the leash. So this kind of, it goes the only way it really could. If you look at it in that situation, here's this essentially like unhinged weapon that now has no one guiding it. So what's it gonna do? It lashes out at
Yeah.
everything, then it goes home. One thing I did find interesting though, and this is you could almost say this is a bit of a conspiracy theory. Sally Hardesty comes back in and she's like say my name or whatever, and like it's like, you don't remember me, do you? I saw that scene again today and I was just watching it and I was thinking, maybe this isn't the same Leatherface.
You know, it's funny. I had that same, not quite that same thought, but yeah, in the same ballpark. I was on the second time through. I was
Yeah, like,
intrigued by that because it's a little off-putting in a way because it's just like, okay, you've been hunting him for how many decades, and here you go. He's right there. All you have to do is off him,
and he has no clue who
and
you
you
are.
just watch him walk right out the door.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, you know, like, and you notice also he didn't have a limp. He got his leg cut up in the first movie. You know, he should have a bit of a limp or something. Didn't have a limp.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, you know, it makes you wonder. It really does.
I tell you, I
Also,
love.
let's be honest. The Sally character was really kind of underused.
I could have done without it completely.
Either completely do without it or make her the sheriff. Make it that you
Which
don't.
is strange. Which is strange, though, isn't it? Because the last time you see her, she is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, she's going into an insane asylum for the next 50, 60,
Yeah,
70 years of her life. I mean, she's,
exactly.
and it just, and I kept thinking about
And
that too.
she
I'm like, how
somehow
does
became a
somebody,
Texas Ranger.
I mean, how does somebody like that even, yeah, I mean, manage to somehow,
Pass the psych test.
yeah. But
Yeah,
I thought it's, I loved Richter. I thought he was my favorite character in the whole thing. I
he
thought
was the most
he,
well,
he
like, filled out character of all of them.
I thought he was really genuine too.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, because
I liked his interactions with the. I'll just call her a survivor girl. I can't remember her
yeah,
name. You know, I liked his interactions with her.
I even liked his interaction with, even though it's bumpy at the start, Dante.
Oh yeah,
And when Dante is of course now injured, walking down the street, and Richter's coming up behind him, and he's like, hey, don't walk away from me when I'm talking. But then the minute he realizes, and he's like, he
something's
completely
up.
changes gear, and
Yep.
is like, dude, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? And then suddenly there's this like really genuine moment where he's like, I got you, buddy. I got you. Just hang
Yeah.
on. And it's like you could see it, and I haven't seen a shifting character like that felt that natural.
Mm.
And I thought too, the girls, the sisters, I thought for the whole first part of the movie, I thought was really rough and awkward. But I think by the final act, their chemistry was finally coming
Yeah.
together in a really cool way.
It was, and I
Almost
mean,
almost like the girl from Evil Dead. We've talked
yeah,
about that before, how her character doesn't really feel like it's coming online until
yeah,
you're
yeah.
hitting that final act.
And that's one thing I do have to say. You know, the sister character was annoying as hell, but by the end, you know, yeah, you felt the relationship, you felt that it was working, but at the same time, when that ending happens, I cheered. Just saying, you know, when that chainsaw came, you know, I kind of cheered because I really didn't like her as a character. Now, this could set up a sequel eventually, but I think you'd have to be very careful about how you do it. And I mean, that's one thing that would kind of work, like with that thing that I brought up, you know, like if this is a different Leatherface, maybe there've been a lot of Leatherfaces over the years, you know. Maybe this family, this is how they go. Like when they're young, they're Leatherface. When they get older, they take over the role of like the hitchhiker. And then they get older and they take on the role of the cook. Maybe this is what happens when someone just gets stuck in that one role. I don't know.
Well, that's funny because I was listening to Hooper's commentary on the first one earlier, and
Mhm.
he talked about how there's at least 3 personality shifts Leatherface goes through in that movie, and it really depends on the mask he puts on.
Yeah, Yeah.
Whether it's the grandmotherly role or, whatever mask he puts on is sort of the persona that he, what, you have a favorite kill? I mean,
Honestly, let's put it this way. I have a favorite kill and I have a kill that I think stands out the most. My favorite kill, spoilers, here we go. The sister at the end chainsaws the head off, holds it up. I loved that scene. Like I said, this movie, I'll sort of give sort of my rating here. This movie was an 8 for me, right up until that ending. Then the ending happened, that pushed it up to a 9 for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But when it comes to the most memorable kill, Richter's. I mean, his head disappears. Yeah. I mean, that's something that is the kill that I always expected when, in the original, when he opens the door, whacks the guy with the hammer, that is the kill that I expected that to be. But where in the original we don't see it, in this one we do. I always feel that's how that guy ended up. Just no head. Just
I think
meat sauce.
Yeah, I think I might have to agree with you. It's frustrating to me though, because he was my favorite character and I hated the fact that he died. But I liked how he went out with a fight, because he really drove. He sort of drove Leatherface. For a moment there was a back and forth fight going on.
Yeah.
But man, when Leatherface takes his leg out, man, that pain. And I'll tell you what was sad to watch though was with the one girl who tried to get out of the bus and she only got like halfway out.
Oh yeah, it was like, yeah.
And we got to say this too. I more than ever, I really do think they sort of ripped off the corridor scene in Rogue One.
Oh,
they had to have been inspired by it. Because, listen, Vader impales a rebel up on the thing. He impales a guy up on the roof. I mean,
I just love the scene where the girl's trying to get away, and essentially a guy gets in the way, and it's just kind of like right through. Like, oh, awesome! I love it, man. One thing I wanted to see, the girl that climbed out the window and got hacked. I was real. It's gonna sound really like mean-spirited to say this. I really wanted her just to grab someone and use them as a meat shield. Then I could have really hated her character. Because that's the thing, this movie has no villains. It has people doing just kind of shitty things, like Dante and the sister or whatever, they just, let's be truthful, they essentially kill the woman.
Yeah. I mean, then see, and that's the thing, though. That's what, when I bring up Ruggero Deodato, I mean, it's like it's how it's executed. It just, they really could have made these two, I mean, this group of people really be villainous.
And I almost wish they had.
And they never go the distance. I mean, it's always sort of like, I mean, it's sort of played off, well, I mean, yeah, they kind of pushed her, but at the same time, was she ready to keel over? But, have a heart attack. And it just, you never really buy that, I don't know. It's just, I guess you needed something to set them off, and that was what you were going to use to set them off. I just wish it would have been, I wish the situation would have been slightly different in terms of how they come in.
Yeah, essentially what you have here is like, when you think of using Cannibal Holocaust as a good example, the people in Cannibal Holocaust who you would normally, under any normal situation, consider the villains, the cannibals.
Right.
When you actually see the whole thing are completely justified in what they do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I would almost like to see that here.
I know, and see, that's what we're
missing. The villain, but he's completely justified in everything he does.
And that's what we missed in Green Inferno. That's what we missed here. And quite frankly, I think they missed an opportunity even by following the 2018 formula. I wish they would have just found something a little bit, set their own pathway in a new, in a new way that
Yeah.
might have been a new benchmark that would have caused everyone else to look at them and go, oh, hey, let's follow after that way.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it I find comes back again to like the Sally character. Either she should have been in it more or she should have been in it not at all. Because essentially you have this character that you saw what happened to her in the first movie. No one's going to go into this having never seen Texas Chainsaw. If they do, they're an idiot. I'm calling it right now. We know what she's been through. We expect her return to be something like epic, and it kind of fizzles. It's essentially a cameo with a different actress.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Original actress died, but maybe when that happened, it should have been like, you know what? Let's just leave the character out. I don't know.
I'd tell you who you could have brought back with an interesting spin. Could have brought back the guy driving that dang truck who took out the hitchhiker. Cool. I thought about that when I was watching it today. I thought, man, there you go. You could have brought that guy back, and it would have been a new palette to work with because we don't even know who that guy is.
Exactly. Or hell, you know what you could do, and it could work because she's still alive and she's still acting. Bring back girl from part 2. Have this continue from part 2, and we've seen how she is at the end of part 2. If anything, it could be argued she's even crazier than Sally Hardesty.
So, real quick, what do you think about the word that Netflix has no intention of putting this on physical media?
That annoys me. That annoys me. It's a very, I'll just say, it's a very short-sighted idea. I mean, it will get them money in the short term because people will get Netflix, things because they want to see the movie. But in the long run, I think not going with a physical release is going to hurt everyone. Because, there's a lot of people out there who don't have Netflix. Amazing to hear, but yeah, there are a lot of people that don't have Netflix. If they want to see this movie, let's be honest, do you think they're going to get a Netflix account to see it, or are they going to download it?
They'll download it.
Exactly, and I can't fault them for that. I mean, I'm not always the biggest believer in, I've said before when it comes to bootlegs and everything, if there's no legitimate way to get something, you kind of got to do what you got to do. But the problem I find a lot of time with exclusives, if you will, so like if you get like a Netflix exclusive, an Apple exclusive or whatever, is there's a whole market that will never see that movie. Greyhound is a perfect example. I downloaded it. That's how I saw it. Because I don't have like the Apple thing or whatever. I was like, I'm not getting this whole
freaking bullshit. Is what it is. It gets me.
That
mad.
Movie deserves.
This movie should have been simultaneously put on a Walmart shelf and a simple Blu-ray copy the same freaking day it came out on Netflix. Because I'll tell you what, I would have picked that freaking thing up today. It's good enough to have. I mean, I got my issues with it. I wish certain things, but in the end, it's entertaining enough. And man, I'd say this: the bus scene is what we should have got in the 3D movie, but in the amusement park.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
That would have been freaking epic.
Have that, and honestly, take Texas Chainsaw 3D, fix the stupid time problems, and put that type scene in it, and then at the end have the same sort of ending as this one does. You'd have been set.
Yeah.
you know. And what did you think of the end credits stinger right at the end?
It opens up a whole, you know, obviously possibilities if they're even allowed to go forward. Um, how does this set up? I mean, which begs the question again: where's the family? Where's the rest of the family? Now, albeit I know there's 48 years, the patriarch's he's probably gone and dead. But I mean, where's Grandpa? I mean, obviously I know he was 113 in the original film, but I mean, where are the memorials? Where are, you know, did the I mean, did the events in the first film actually happen or did they not happen? We're led to believe they happened because Sally Hardesty is brought back into the picture. The problem is, why is Leatherface in this orphanage with a caretaker who seems to be his mother, and there's no real word? There's not even a really good understanding of why the town is even as empty as it is. Which is really weird. I mean, you can assume, I mean, when the meatpacking plant went, that began the process of this town drying up. When the massacre happens, again, people are going to just leave.
Yeah.
But that's never fully developed in this movie. And I love the idea of a ghost town. I love the idea. I'm not sure how plausible it is for a group of people just to come in and buy up a town, but I love the idea that this place has just been ruined.
Yeah.
And you got a gas station who's selling, corkscrew chainsaws.
See, that's a way I think they could do it if they did a sequel, and they essentially would have to say, what we know as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the movie, is a movie. Like in this world, that's like a fictionalized account of what actually happened. And have it that we don't know the exact events. We don't know like what happened afterwards. But the way it's set up is, we've seen the first movie, that's what happened then. But what if that isn't what happened? What if the facts are there? Franklin, all them others got killed. Sally Hardesty survived. The guy in the Leatherface mask. But what if a lot of it is just made up? What if there was no cannibal family? What if it was just one guy, and maybe one guy like directing the shots? You could maybe make that work. And I think probably that would be the only way to deal with some of the plot holes, I guess you'll say. I don't know.
No.
Because I mean, that would make sense, if there was only two of them, Leatherface and the hitchhiker. When the hitchhiker got ran over at the end, he had nowhere to go. Eventually, somehow, this woman picks him up and essentially realizes kind of what he is, and essentially takes the leash and tries to keep him, keep him sane, if you will. I don't know.
So your final rating? You said a 9?
My final rating, honestly, yeah, I'm going with a 9. This had, like I said, it's not a perfect movie. And if I rate it fairly, comparing it to the original, it falls short. But for what it is, I thoroughly enjoyed it. There was some great gore in it. An ending that was perfect. I love the ending. And just an all-around fun movie. Now, like I said, it's not going to win any awards. It's not going to be, the greatest horror requel ever made. But I honestly, in my ranking of the Texas Chainsaw franchise, it goes 1, 2, 3, this one, remake, beginning, part 4, Leatherface, and then Texas Chainsaw 3D. You know, so it's definitely, I feel, one of the better sequels. But that's just me.
Yeah, it's got some real good things going for it, visually especially. I think it's where its strength is.
Yeah.
It's
I
don't know.
wonder, I wonder how much of it, like I said before, could have been fixed with just, maybe a couple more weeks editing. I still think that one scene, the bus is taken off, you hear a chainsaw, the guy stops and gets out. It's like, why did he stop and get out? One shot of a chainsaw catching a tire. That's all you need. And it would just be like, okay, that's why the bus stopped. He cut the tire, it's gone down, they can't move. And maybe a few little scenes like that would work some wonders. But still, like I said, I'm saying 9 out of 10. But know what you're going into when you watch it. Yeah.
I think I don't usually rate as much. I don't really rate, but if I had to, I would probably be about a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I think what makes most of that is the visuals, the effects that were practical. Leatherface is a character.
That's something we do have to discuss slightly. The new mask. What did you think?
Pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Especially when you see it in light of the dead sunflowers.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Again, visuals.
Exactly. It's just such. I just love that scene. She's on the radio and she's just whispering. She's like, "He's wearing her face."
Okay,
that's a creepy scene.
Real fast. I got a couple trivia for you real quick.
Cool.
I was doing a little digging. The composer, Colin Stetson.
Yeah.
He did our Color Out of Space.
Oh, very nice.
And he is working on a score right now for a film entitled Uzumaki, I think it is. It is a animated. It's an animated take on Spyro.
Very.
The cinematographer, really, I couldn't find anything that he was really known for, but he did work on Stranger Things. Here's the good one. The makeup artist, one of them, the main one, Martin Aslis. He mostly got his work in the 90s, but his first assignment was Waxwork 2.
Oh, nice.
And he was part of, a lot of the sequels in the 90s. Hellraiser 3, Candyman in 92, Event Horizon. He worked with Zombie on House of a Thousand Corpses.
Nice.
It's
funny, mentioning Hellraiser 3. There was a scene in this movie that I thought, that's a Hellraiser 3 reference. When they're in the bathroom and all the blood starts pouring under the door. That's completely right out of Hellraiser 3. When the slaughter in the nightclub is going on, you just see the blood pouring out from under the door. Makes you wonder, doesn't it, if he was involved? Maybe he was like, you know what, this worked on that one.
Well, isn't that how it usually works?
Yeah, definitely.
So I thought that was interesting. And now he wasn't the only one. Obviously, there was a whole, I don't know, it was like, I can't remember how many, but there was a pretty sizable team on the makeup effects. And there was a team on the special effects. But he was the one that stood out to me when I started to see his filmography. I thought, dang.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. That is a review of the new Texas Chainsaw. I definitely recommend, if you're a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan, to check it out.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's not a movie to avoid, but it's definitely one to go with the right expectations. You know, don't go in expecting the next Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Go in expecting maybe like the next Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. You'll be pretty good.
Agree. Well said.
Yeah, you got any final thoughts?
Regardless of what you may or may not think about it, all of us have got to be clamoring for a physical media release of this, because the completest in all of us in terms of franchises, we need to have a copy of this in our collection. I mean, regardless of how many times you may revisit it, it needs to be put on a physical media.
Yep.
So we need to raise it.
I've got a copy of Texas Chainsaw 3D, so
with a few extras on how they did the effects and just all the stuff that we'd like to see on a physical media release.
Hell yeah. Well, everyone, that's it for me. We'll see you next week.